Hello, everybody. Welcome to ticker symbol cash. So the chief of DOJ's fraud team has just said that you will see more activity from us involving short sellers sometime in the next few months. Now, guys, I want to stick to that right away at the very start of this video because that's absolutely brilliant news. Some of the best news I've heard in a very long time. So I just want to talk about how the Dodge is finally actually investigating short sellers and is actually expecting to prosecute some of these shorts for abusing options over the coming months as they tuned and let's make some money. And now I'll dive straight in with the explanation. So as you can see from this article, the Dodge is to double down on their short selling practices. Um, Short selling investigations, it says remarks on Wednesday by the chief of the Justice Department fraud section's market integrity team was the first time a Dodge official has talked openly about this relatively new area of focus. Short selling, including via options, is a priority for prosecutors. So Evie Perry, the chief, the market integrity team said at Practicing Law Institute event in New York, and he said you'll see some more activity from us involving short sellers sometime in the next few months. Yahoo Finance reports that the Justice Department, the United States Securities Exchange Commission, has been investigating the potential manipulation by short sellers and hedge funds around the publication of negative search reports. The broad probe is an example of the agency's effort to use data to root out potential misconduct by traders and to dig more deeply into the securities market. As I said, I think that is absolutely brilliant. Doge is going off the short sellers for abusing options and is expected to bring charges over the coming months. Back in the past, this was just lip service, but I think now the short selling has risen to prominence. All that manipulative short selling of bank stocks has risen to prominence. So I think Doge are taking this whole short setting investigation much more seriously. And I think as a result, they're going to end up uncovering much more than they actually bargained for, or they may have already uncovered exactly that. And that is why they're going to see more activity from the Dodge involving short sellers sometime in the next few months. Obviously, this is good for AMC if short sellers do end up getting exposed by the Dodge and the existence of synthetic shares ends up being exposed as well, especially if the Dodge then forces the short sellers to either close out of their short positions or just shuts down their hedge fund in its entirety. I also wanted to talk about this tweet from Bill Ackman about Carl Icahn and how Carl Icahn may actually cause the next quiz. Bill said that Icahn's margin lenders must be extremely concerned with the current situation, considering that current Icahn has just been exposed by Hindenburg research. His stock has fallen over 50%, and he's done over $15 billion in the last few years. And he said they must be particularly concerned in light of the recent involvement of the Dodge against Carl Icahn hedge fund, especially because of the Dodge would also be investigating the lender's involvement in this situation too. And Blackman said there's likely more than one margin lender involved here because of the very large size of the loan and the risk limits that margin lenders have. He said IEP reminds me somewhat of Arcados, where the swap counterparties were comforted by each having relatively small exposure to the situation. The problem is that multiple lenders make for a more chaotic situation. All it takes is for one lender to break ranks and liquidate shares or attempt to hedge before the house comes falling down. And he said here that Patsy is the last lender to liquidate or the last lender to reach the exit door, especially if the Dodge starts um, investigating and charging short sellers. I don't think it will be long until their lenders start pulling the plug as well. You can imagine if the Dodge turned their sights to Citadel and as a result of Bank of America pulled the plug on all of those Citadel margin notes, that would be absolute chaos of Citadel liquidating pretty much their entire fund, long and short positions in a matter just in a matter of just a few days, yes, Bank of America would end up getting burned as a result, but there'd be absolutely be the first to the exit door if the Doge was investigating. As something interesting I also found is where he says that I'm surprised that ICANN has not disclosed the terms of his margin loans, including who provided them. He said, my understanding of the SEC certainty rules is that they require disclosure of sources of financing and even copies of financing agreements, although many investors ignore these requirements. So therefore, we could also have many hedge funds and many short sellers hiding the true sources of their financing and how much financing they actually received. They could be covering up the true extent of their margin positions and just how over leveraged they truly are. They could be using this to avoid those margin calls by not disclosing the true extent of their leverage or the true extent of their financing. But obviously, as I said, when one of these lenders pulls the plug upon an investigation, the rest of the lenders will try and pull that same plug as well. As nobody wants to be lost to the exit door. So guys, if you haven't already, be sure to sign up to name me with a sponsor for today's video. So just subscribe. You don't need to sign up anywhere. Just subscribe to my channel, like the video. So let's continue. And Tony Divanaro tweeted, he said, this guy speaking out against fixing the income statement and increasing revenues. He says he sees a pattern like the Marine is basically saying that AMC generating additional revenue is bad for the squeeze, and actually AMC should instead go bankrupt. He thinks if AMC generates losses and goes bankrupt, that's somehow good for the squeeze. His argument is that if AMC generates more revenue and generates profit and becomes a bit positive, then Adam gets his shares vested a little bit earlier. And he somehow thinks that if Adam Aaron gets an extra few 100,000 shares, that's somehow bad for the squeeze, and that instead AMC should go bankrupt. Now I want to explain why going bankrupt for AMC is terrible for the squeeze and kills the squeeze instantly. For number one straight off the bat, if AMC goes bankrupt, he gets delisted from the New York Stock Exchange, which is exactly what the shortists wanted all along. Now it seems this mainstream media outlet, The Street, is almost trying to aid Mike DeMarion by saying a bankruptcy in Bed Bath and Beyond may trigger a massive short squeeze against. So I want to make it clear that if AMC files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy and gets delisted from the stock exchange, that is not good for the AIMS. It squeeze and stops IT debt in its track. We know that Bed Bath and Beyond has now gone bankrupt. It's not being delisted and it's lost the battle, but AMC has not yet lost the war. I also want to remind you that Mike Zamarin is against the reverse split and now for some reason seems to be for an AMC bankruptcy, which is again why you need to be so careful of people spreading FUD and Acer trying to convince you to sell your shares or to stop supporting AMC and hope the company goes bankrupt. It just makes no sense. Now, somebody else that was against the reverse split has just deleted or had her Twitter account deleted, and it was that girl Trailer or Amy. I wonder if Amy saw the Department of Justice was going to investigate short status further, and as a result decided to dip out and delete her on Twitter again. So these are both people that are against the reverse split, and I think that AMC going bankrupt or generating a larger loss is actually somehow good for squeeze. But supposedly these people don't get caught up in short squeezes. I hope you can now or realize that there absolutely is a couple of people against AMC and trying to push the company into bankruptcy and trying to convince you to sell your shares. Now, obviously, I'm not trying to convince you to buy shares or sell your shares because I'm not giving any financial advice. I'm just simply presenting the news and presenting the facts. So obviously, I hope that as a result, you do your due diligence and try and figure out for yourselves if AMC going bankrupt is good for the stock price or not, and also do your own research on this Department of Justice investigation. Now, speaking of reverse splits, Tony has also tweeted saying people would like to blame reverse splits like BBIG and MULN for a stock price falling, but ignore the price trajectory for months prior to the reverse split. And he said a falling price after the reverse split is just simply a continuation caused by flawed fundamentals and derelict financials. But obviously, if a company fixes those fundamentals, the price goes up. Like in Edu, which also performed the reverse split. Edu performed a 1% reverse split down here at $8 per share, but has since improved its fundamentals, improved its revenues, improved its profits. As a result, the stock price has multiplied. Yes, you can obviously in stocks like MUL and VESI perform the reverse split stock price did continue to fall, but that's only because over the last 2 years the stock price had dropped significantly. The company is losing money and will soon go bankrupt. So the bankruptcy is a result of the company not generating profits, and that's why obviously AMC increasing their profit is good for company, as it means the AMC avoids bankruptcy and avoids that the listing, and that exactly why generating a heavier loss or not generating more revenues and going bankrupt is bad for the squeeze. So hopefully everyone can now see that there are absolute people out there that are trying to convince you that bankruptcy is somehow good for AMC. Which is definitely not, and hopefully you can now also see that a reverse split is not bad for a company that is also fixing its fundamentals, provided and Amaranth doesn't dilute by hundreds of millions of shares. So guys, be sure to let me know what you think. So don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe. If you like the video, give a big thumbs up, subscribe to our channel. See you on the next video.